Hello again. No, I am not wearing the same clothes 3 times in a row. I am batching these videos. If you've watched these videos and I am in the exact same things in the same place, this is why. I'll just let you know. Anyway, hiya. This is the second video in my ideas series that I'm doing, and last video, if you've watched it, it was just talking about general brainstorming tips and things that I do to brainstorming. But this one is a little more in depth, and I want to talk about some things that I use when I want to brainstorm a specific story and generate ideas. So the last video was kind of like talking about when you need an idea right from the start, you have nothing and you want to generate like the basic idea. This one is kind of growing that idea and turning it into a better idea and a book you want to write, or generating like ideas for a book you already know you want to do. So I want to just talk you through some tips that I use when I know kind of like the basics of what I'm after. So I'm going to use 2 of my things. So we've got my Death Dealer series, which is an urban fantasy series that follows Harper and Ethan, and then we've got my British crime book. There's going to be a series. I'm on the first book, which follows my detective, and I'm kind of going to talk about these depending on which topic to help. But I want to talk about kind of like generating ideas for your specific story. Now, I tend to be a discovery writer, but I still need to generate ideas. Sometimes I do have fun just like discovering the story completely brand new, but a lot of times I do need to kind of go in and explore the idea, especially if I get stuck. So I'm just going to jump straight in. So the first thing you need to look at is genre. What genre are you wanting to write? Now, most of us actually know what genre we want to write in. It's what genre interests us. We might not read in that genre, although I advise you do, even if it's just to generate your ideas. But genre is a good place for brainstorming things and ideas for your story, because genres have things and tropes that you have to hit, and you know there's beats that you've got to hit. So I have an urban fantasy series. It's got 4 books out, and you know, or the reader knows, if I have an urban fantasy series, that there are going to be supernatural fantasy elements in this story, and that could be, it depends on what your fantasy trope is. It could be werewolves, vampires and whatever. Just like with a paranormal romance, you're going to have specific things you have to have. So in an urban fantasy story, I know I need to have some kind of magic thing in there. And so for me, it's Death Dealers, and the Death Dealers themselves are a magical thing that I've kind of created that are explored through the series. My crime novel, because I'm writing a crime novel, there are specific genre beats and tropes I need to hit. I have to have somebody investigating that crime. That could be a librarian if I'm writing a cozy mystery, nosy neighbour, think Jessica Fletcher, think Agatha Christie's, could be a detective. I know I need to have somebody investigating my thing. I also need a crime, and I need a victim of that crime. And so this, because you have genre and you know that these tropes and beats that you have to hit, you can brainstorm these into a bigger story. So for my Jigsaw Girl, it's going to be a detective series. It's focused on DCI Alex Rogan. He's the main star of my books. So I already have the person investigating it. He's got to have a victim. So in Jigsaw Girl, it's this girl called Madeline Clayton. She's like 24, 25, PhD student, about to graduate to become a doctor, blah, blah, blah. The crime, she's been murdered, sexually assaulted and stuff like that. But this works for any genre. So if you are writing a romance, you are going to have the same thing. You know in a romance that 2 people need to meet. Now, it doesn't matter if those 2 people are male and female, or female and female and male and male. It doesn't matter if that romance is, I can't even think of the word now, when you have 3 people or 4 people, whatever the romance is. In any kind of romance, the genre tropes are the same. There needs to be a happy ever after or a happy for now. If you don't have that at the end, you do not have a romance. And people can argue that one forever, but that is how it is. A romance means at the end of the story they are happy ever after or happy for now. You know that there is probably going to be a moment where, I would say boy meets girl, but there's so many different ways now that person meets person. You're probably also going to have when person loses person because they do something stupid. You see it in all the classic romance films. They fall out with each other, and it's at the end when they realise they love each other and they go chasing each other at the airport and stuff like that. That is how romance, this is what romance readers look for. They want that and excitement. So genre will heavily dictate the kind of things you have in your story, and that is a really good one to brainstorm. So you take your genre, Google tropes. If you just Google romance tropes for novels, you will get a list of the tropes you have to have. Go and just think of ideas to fill those in. Another one is who, to help you brainstorm. Who is your character? You might not know that to begin with, or it might be something that you develop. So for example, DCI Alex Rogan. I knew I wanted a DCI. I knew I wanted to be a police procedural. But who is he? What's his life like? How old is he? How did he become what he is? Did he always want to be a policeman? Did he always want to be a detective? What's his family life like? Is he married? Does he have children? What does he want out of life? No, it's not these things that does his jobs when he goes to the office and back, but it's all the things that make Alex Alex. Even his name. His name wasn't originally Alex Rogan. Now I knew I wanted a good surname, because most police procedurals that I've read have it that the detective is referred to by their surname. So I would have driven myself nuts if I'd have called him Shuttleworth and I had to write that all the time. Apologies if there are any out there. But so I wanted something sharp and punchy. Originally I gave him the surname Fox, and I think it was like Luke Fox or something like that. And yeah, I played with it, but then I had the name Rogan. I'm like, oh, I like that. And then I came to the Alex. I'm like, yeah, Alex Rogan. Love it. Alex is a good name to use. Rogan's a good name to use. But then who was he? What's driving him? So I gave him a wife, and then I killed her. Nothing dramatic. She had cancer. She passed away. And when did she pass away? Because that's important. If she passed away the day before my story, he's going to be a different person to if she passed away 2 years ago. So I had it that she passed away 18 months ago. So he's still in the grieving process, but he's like been through a lot of the heavy. He's also got a daughter. Now she started at the age 7. And I decided she was a bit too young. I wanted to have a little bit more independence and a little bit knowledge of what's going on in her world. So I made her 9. I also wanted to give her a little bit of challenge, so we made her deaf, so that Alex had to learn sign language and his wife learned sign language. So that gives a little bit more about his personality and who he is, his size. I gave him a sister who is kind of hippie-ish and free spirit, but they're very close because they've got this very domineering mother, and they kind of like are each other's blankets, protection from this mother. I gave him a mother-in-law who loves him very much, but she wants him to move on. She thinks he needs to move on. Obviously she loved her daughter, but she knows Alex is in his 30s, he needs this life. So because there's this thing where he can move on in his 30s, I can have like a romantic subplot in my story. We also decided to put the victim's name as Madeline, and his daughter is Madison. So they're both Maddie, and this is his first big case since his wife died, because he's kind of been avoiding work, he's been working, but he's not been, he was this big shot detective, but his wife had cancer, so he was with her through the fight, and then she died, and it's kind of knocked him back and shaken his world, as it would do. And so this is his first big case since that's happened to him. And so I wanted to knock him off his feet with it, so I made sure we gave the victim and his daughter basically the same name, but not the same name. So they're both still referred to as Maddie, but not. And then I decided, because his wife is called Jenny, but she's always referred to as Jenny, we then called the person who finds Madeline's body Jennifer. And it was just to have it hit close to home and hit on his wound of his dead wife and trying to move on with life. And it just made him more interesting. And this is what you do with your who. Who is your character? Take any character. Look at Harry Potter. He's an 11-year-old boy. He lives in an abusive family. He's kept under the stairs. His parents are dead. He was told that they died in a car crash. His auntie has kept his life from him. They hate him for some reason. They treat him horribly. He's got a spoiled cousin, but he notices that he is able to do these weird things. He in the beginning, if you know the story, he goes to the zoo by accident. The family has to reluctantly take him, and there's this snake, and he accidentally vanishes the glass, and the snake is set free, and then the snake talks to him, and he has no idea how he does this. And it's only later that we meet the Hagrid character, who tells Harry, well, you're actually a wizard. And so that who of his life has sprungboard, guys. He's an 11-year-old boy whose parents have died. So if you go back into why did his parents die, well, they were killed by this powerful wizard. Why does he have this scar? And he said, because this powerful wizard tried to kill him. Where is this powerful wizard? And you see how that would springboard if you were J.K. Rowling and trying to create Harry Potter. So you've got this 11-year-old boy and he's got this scar on his head, and then you dig into this past. While the past is not the story, it's the future that feeds into it. Do you see what I mean? And as they do, batteries died, so I'm going to finish this video on my phone because I'm on a roll and I've got some peace and quiet. So the next one is location. Location is a lot of people take location for granted, but location isn't just a marker on a map. It means so many things. Location is, if you think of it as a setting in a movie, like the movie Titanic is set on a boat at a certain time period. The movie Divergent has a different setting, and those setting and locations mean totally different things. If you've got a story set in Victorian England, that's going to feed into your story different than if you've got the year 3000 on a different planet. And yeah, so setting is such a big thing. You know, it's a courtroom, so you've got some that's going to fill into your story. Who are the characters that inhabit that courtroom? There's a school, what are the characters that inhabit that school, and so on. And like I say, you know, if you go back to this Victorian England idea, maybe you've got a female character, and because Victorian England is run a certain way, women are like oppressed, they don't have rights. What if there was a time traveller to land in Victorian England? Or what if your female character from Victorian England came to the present time? And you see how setting would affect that, because you imagine taking a woman from Victorian England and putting her in 2023 when females have all the rights and expectations that we have now, as opposed to then when it was probably mostly get married and have babies, and now it's like don't get married and have babies, or do, or whatever you want to do. Do you see how that, I can't remember the name of the series now, that Scottish one, oh my gosh, people will kill me because it's super famous. The woman who goes in Scotland and meets that guy Jamie, but that was all featured around the time when she travelled back and she couldn't get back to present time, and she fell in love with this guy and she had to marry him. Oh my god, what is he called? Someone tell me down in the comments. I can't remember what it's called. I only watched the first series because it wasn't my kind of thing, but setting played a huge part in that for that story. But just play with these things. This is the whole fun of these things, is just playing. Theme. Now this is a big one. What message do you want to convey in your story? And I don't mean preaching to your readers, and also don't tell me you don't have one. Every story has to have a theme. If you don't have a theme, then what is the point of your story? And these, when I say theme, are things like good versus evil, betrayal, prejudice. Have you ever seen the film The Help? That is all about people of colour in the South America and how they were treated, and someone thinking that was wrong and trying to write their story to get them equality and highlight their fight. Shawshank Redemption isn't actually a film about prison, it's a film about friendship, and that was the theme in that story. Harry Potter has many themes, from friendship to finding courage to good versus evil. You know, doesn't have to be just one theme. When you look at a theme and the kind of message that you want to convey, like, that will springboard your ideas. In The Jigsaw Girl, one of the themes that I'm exploring is moving on after loss, like Alex moving on from the loss of his wife and maybe finding love again and taking joy in his life and looking after his daughter and all the things, because life seemed to stop when she did. And that was the theme in the Death Dealer series. Harper starts as a very timid character and she's going to grow, so that's kind of, you know, the theme of that is finding her inner courage and inner person and being herself. What are the kind of themes that you're attracted to? List them, see how they would feed into your stories. Theme is just such a wonderful thing, and all stories have them. And the thing with this is you don't have to know all the answers to these 4 areas. You might know one or you might know 2, but I find if I brainstorm one, the others will come. Ideas for me just start propping up. And one big thing I'll say, and I said in my last video, is don't censor, don't judge, allow ideas to come no matter how daft you think they are, because those daft stories will lead you to the next idea and the next idea, and it will come up with something fantastic. And it could still change, that's fine, nothing is ever set in stone. Eventually you will come to the story that you want to tell, and these 4 things are just really good areas to get yourself into the kind of the story you know you want to tell. But that's it from me today. I hope that helped you a little more with the brainstorming. I'll have another video next week on ideas, probably going to talk about picking your ideas and how to develop your ideas. But if there is anything you want to know about ideas that, in case I don't think to cover it, pop it down in the comments below and I will try and include it in a video or make a video on its own, depending on what it is. I also have a little Facebook group for writers. It's very tiny, it's only just started. If you want to come and join us there, the link is also down below, and I'd love to have you there. And I will see you next week. Good luck with your story ideas and your writing. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to give the channel a subscribe and smash that notification bell. And until next time, I shall see you later. Hi.